Hello everyone. Today we're diving into how to set up your audio interface with Reaper and use Ninjam for synchronized music jams over the internet. Let's get started. First things first, let's connect your microphone to your audio interface. Plug your XLR cable into the microphone. Connect the other end of the XLR cable to input 1 of your audio interface. Ensure your audio interface is connected to your computer via USB. Next, we need to download and install Reaper. Open your web browser and either search or go to reaper.fm. Click on the download button and choose the appropriate version for your operating system. Once downloaded, run the installer and follow the on-screen instructions to install Reaper. Now let's set up Reaper to work with your audio interface. If this is the first time you've opened Reaper, it may ask you to select your audio interface. But here's how you can get to that part of Reaper's settings, just in case it doesn't. Open Reaper and go to Options in the top menu. Select Preferences from the drop-down. If you're on a Mac, this will be called Settings. In the Preferences window, click on Audio and then Device. From the Audio System drop-down, select your audio interface. Check the box named Request Block Size. Even though I'm simplifying a little here, this is a measure of how much processing power is being given to your audio. If, for instance, your audio sounds clicky and poppy, you can increase this number and give it more power. However, the larger it is, the more latency you will experience, which is the delay between you singing and the sound coming back to you in your headphones. The best number here for you depends on lots of factors, such as the speed of your computer and the quality of your audio interface. But generally, I would recommend either 256 for slightly slower systems or 128 for newer machines. You can try setting it at 128, and then later, if you experience clicks or pops in your audio, you can bump it back up to 256. Click Apply and then OK to save your settings. Reaper is now configured to use your audio interface. Let's open a pre-made Reaper project that I've set up for you so you can get straight into jamming and not worry about setting up effects chains and such for your voice. First, download and save the Reaper project file I've included in a link in the description in this video. In Reaper, go to File and select Open Project. Navigate to the location where you saved the project file I sent. Select the file and click Open. This project contains just one input track, which is your mic with some effects, and a master track, which contains the Ninjam plugin, which we'll use to connect to other jammers. We do have more advanced Reaper project files available where you can use different effects presets and even create your own loops to add to the jam, but for the purposes of this beginner's demonstration, we're going to keep it simple. However, if you do want to edit your effects, for instance, you want more reverb or you need to boost your volume, then you can do so by clicking the Effects button on your mic input track and changing the effects that you want to change. Okay, now let's connect to a Ninjam server so we can start jamming with other musicians. Ninjam might be open already, but if it's not, click on the Master Track Effects button at the bottom of the screen. Selecting Rear Ninjam, click Show Rear Ninjam Console. In the Ninjam plugin, click on Connect. A list of available servers will appear. We want to scroll to the bottom of the list. Click on the server called getaroom-na.ninjam.com. Enter a username and uncheck Connect with password. Click Connect. You will now be in the lobby of the Get a Room private room service. These settings should save, so next time you want to connect, you probably just need to press the connect button and it will already have all your details ready. So you can join a private room with people you know. You've got to decide on a room name. In this case, my room is going to be called Coloop 1. So all I and anyone else that wants to join the jam with me needs to do is type the following into the lobby chat window box. ! Join Coloop 1. Now at this point, some people get a bug where on the very first time you create a private room in this get a room server, it crashes Reaper. I've got no idea why this happens, but if it does for you, just relaunch Reaper, connect again with Ninjam, and every time after that you should be fine. Great, me and my buddy have now connected to our own private jam room. I know I'm connected because I can see the green numbers counting up, the metronome is playing, and there's a message in the chat that says something like, the topic is private room Coloop 1. I can also hear him doing some beatbox, so let's just mute him a second and let's mute the metronome too. Before we take a look at the Ninjam controls, we need to say something about what Ninjam is, or rather, what Ninjam is not. Ninjam is not a method for real-time jamming. So what I mean by that is being able to jam over the internet without any sort of latency is actually physically impossible. Some services try and get close to zero latency jamming, but my experience is that unless you're very close to someone geographically and have incredible internet, it generally doesn't work. Instead, Ninjam goes the other way. It delays people's audio by a musically significant amount, which in Ninjam speak is called the interval. This could be 4 beats, 8 beats, or even something as long as 64 beats. We, the jammers, set the length of the interval, so it becomes a musical decision, and we use it in different ways in different contexts. It's quite a bit to get your head round, the whole interval thing, if you want to really understand it. But the good news is that you really don't need to understand it. In most cases, you can just forget that other people's audio is being delayed and just jam as normal. We'll come back to the interval thing at the end, but now let's go over the key elements of the Ninjam interface and how to use it. You can use the chat window to communicate with other musicians in the session. Here is where you can type the commands that change the BPM and the BPI, which, as I said, we'll be covering at the end. You can mute, pan, and set the volume of the metronome here. All of these track controls are for your listening benefit only. You can think of them as your personal monitoring mix. You can change the settings for volume, mute, solo, and panning for yourself, for other people in the jam, as well as the master volume, panning, and mute. The X-Mit button controls whether you are broadcasting your sound to the jam or not. Uncheck this if you want to test things out and make some noise without anyone hearing you. But don't forget to recheck it, because otherwise you'll just be jamming to nobody. The mode drop-down tells Ninjam how you want your audio to be handled. The two modes we'll be using here are normal Ninjam and voice chat. In normal Ninjam mode, your audio is synced up with the jam. This is the mode you use when you want to sing or play music with other people. On the other hand, voice chat mode is like using a voice chat application such as Zoom. You won't be synchronized with other musicians, but you can use it for chatting to other people with the least delay. Lastly, we can change two musical values of our jam: the BPM, or beats per minute, which is the speed of our jam, and the BPI, which stands for beats per interval. We mentioned the interval before, but if this is the first time you've used Ninjam, the concept of BPI will probably be unfamiliar to you. You can think of it as the length of the current phrase of music. For example, perhaps we have a chord sequence that after 16 beats loops back around to the beginning of the sequence again. In this case, we would set the BPI to 16. If the chord sequence was twice that length, we might need to set the BPI to 32. At the risk of getting a bit advanced here, we can also use the BPI to define our time signature. So in the example of 16 beat chord sequences, 16 beats can be translated as 4 bars of 4 beats. If instead we wanted to do a similar length chord sequence in 5/4 time, we could set the BPI to 20, which is 4 bars of 5 beats. If that seems really complicated, you can just ignore it. The main thing to keep in mind is that when you're jamming, you're trying to sing or play something that fits the length of the interval, which again you can call phrase or chord sequence. If you do something drastically different in different intervals, it might be hard for other jammers to respond because their audio is going to be delayed by the length of the interval. With Ninjam itself, there is no click on a button to change the BPM or the BPI, but what we do is write the following in the chat box: !vote BPM and then the value of the BPM. In this case, I'm changing it to 90 BPM. To change the BPI, we can write !vote BPI and then the length of the interval, which in this case is 16. And that's it. You've successfully set up your audio interface, configured Reaper, connected to a private Ninjam room, and learnt how to use Ninjam. Now it's just a case of getting musical and seeing what you and your fellow jammers can create together. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the Coloop jams.